So, a very warm welcome, everyone. So, today is the first session, right? So, today I'll start with the basics, and then in the future sessions, I'll try and talk about other aspects of user experience. I'll talk about the processes, I'll talk about different methods that's used in the design as well as in the testing, like how to do the research, and there are a lot of other things that we'll talk about. So yeah, so what are the different things that I'll try and cover in this workshop? So basically, I'll try and explain what is the meaning of user experience or what is user experience and also its impact or the importance for business as well as the user. So how does understanding the business goals, user goals is important when working on any product, and also all the processes, like what are the different artifacts that we create when working on these uh, products or processes. And also along with that, we'll try to see like if we can work on some case study or like we can go through some case study, and I'll try to explain like how what some of my students like went through the problem statement and then how they use the process to come up with a solution. And this workshop is for people or designers who are aspiring, who wants to be a designer, or also for someone like who's already in this industry, who are, I mean, let's say like in the graphic design, fashion design, want to transition into the user experience. So this is for everyone, right? Okay, cool. So yeah, so try to talk about the different processes. I'll try to talk about the artifacts. We'll try to teach you about that, and also try to talk about or highlight the skills that you need as a designer, as a if you want to really become successful in this particular field. Right. So this is me. So before getting started, so this is me. So I've worked with a lot of tech startups, a lot of businesses, corporates. Also worked as freelancer. So have got a good experience in design. So this is me. And now coming to the main topic. So what is user experience? So if we need to understand this, let's understand by segregating or basically separating this user and the experience. So when we say user experience, it's about the experience that the user derives when he's using a product. Okay, there are many other terms in the industry that is commonly used: customer experience, service design. So we'll, as of now, focus on the user experience, and we'll try to learn about like how to create better products for the users. Okay, so that is what we'll try to learn. So user, anybody. So when we say user, user represents anybody like who's using the product. Okay, so it could be like physical product, digital products, but in this workshop I'll try to focus on the digital part of the product. So that's the digital product, be it like website, kiosk design, or design for the digital medium like TV or website and so on. So that is what I'll try and focus on, and I'll try to explain like how we use the processes to create products for these kind of experiences. And experience is actually all the pleasure, all the experience, all the value that the user derives when he's using the product. So when we talk about user experience, we talk about the products. So now, why some of the products are so liked by the users while some of the other products people don't like them? So what are the reasons? So if you really want to be like a successful designer, you need to understand those factors that affects the experience. I'll talk about this thing in the future sessions, but again, like you need to understand like what makes good product, and in order to do that, you should go and explore a lot of products and see like what are the factors that makes those products good. Okay, it can be about the experience in the terms of like the aesthetic design, or it could be about the seamless experience without any friction. I mean, you're able to achieve what you want to, or it could be about the customer service of the company that's building the that has built that product. It could also be about the value that you derive, right? So there are a lot of different factors. We'll understand those things also in the future sessions, but you need to explore a lot of products to understand like what makes those products good, and also some of the products why they are not good. Right. So what I want you to do is like, as a homework, you should go and like, list down all the reasons, like why some of the products, I mean, like whatever products you're using, you can take like four, five, or one or two, depending upon how many you want. List down the reasons, like why some of the products you like and why you don't like. And this will help you understand what makes good experience. Now, in order to understand experience, there are different things we'll have to understand. So let's start with one case. That's basically one use case. So now let's say you're planning to buy a new iPhone 13 Pro Max. So this is a new phone that you want to buy. So what would be the general process? If you can take yourself as an example, or your friend, or your brother, and so on. So what is the general process that somebody goes through when they are let's say, planning to buy something or take up a new service. So think from the customer point of view, think from the user point of view, like how do they go about doing this? So if you'll see, this is the common pattern. So basically, this is what generally most of the users do. So basically, they basically decide, okay, so what product should I buy, what variant, what price point, at what price point, what color, and a lot of other things, right? And also they follow a process. So there's a process that basically starts with the research. So what are the different variants of the product? Where should I buy? Okay, whether I should buy online, whether I should buy offline, go to the store, or maybe sometimes we go and check with our friends, like try to take feedback from them, and so on. And also sometimes we go to the store and test the product. So there is a buying pattern, there is a flow, there's a journey. So you need to understand that. And also sometimes what happens in this process, you go to the store and then you then make the payment. So a lot of different things are involved, like how they make the payment. Okay, so what is the process in the sense, like uh, are your users affected by the discounts and so on? Does discounts, offers, these kind of things affect your target audience? So all these factors you need to understand whenever you're building a product. So before getting there, so we need to understand like the process that the user goes through when buying the product. So this is one example, right? So basically iPhone 13 Pro Max. So before deciding that, or before buying, so the user goes through different processes or journey. So understand that. So similarly, like understand about different users. How do they go about going through a process when buying a new product, or maybe like taking up a new service. And sometimes there are other goals of the user, like for in this case, if the user has a goal about, let's say, getting fit. So what is the journey, or what are the different things that the user does? Why I'm talking about this? So let's say like you are the designer and you are asked to like make a product for someone who wants to get fit, who wants to get healthy. So in order to understand their need, you'll have to understand the process, understand why they want it, what are the different reasons for which they want to get healthy, right? So again, there will be different process. So basically, what will you do to stay fit, healthy? So I mean, like you'll have to ask the user, you have to check with them, you'll have to talk with them. So what are the different other factors that affects the health of the people? Also depends upon, yes, exercise, but again, lot depends upon the kind of the food they eat, right? And also what is the right exercise for the right set of people. So basically, there are different people with different needs. So understanding their needs and basically helping them understand what is the right exercise for them. So if you're building a product for the health industry, you'll have to talk to the users, you'll have to observe them, you'll have to understand their needs, and then build the product. So every individual, every user has different needs, and they go through a different journey, right? So similarly, let's say, what would be the journey or the process or the experience of for someone who wants to throw a party, or what will be his process? So let's understand. In order to throw this kind of party or like plan party, so what he'll do is like he'll first select be the venue and what kind of foods to be served, and also he'll then create a list of the friends whom to invite, and also the other things like what gifts to give, or other kind of celebration that needs to be taken, like dancing and other kind of activities and so on. So a lot of things they go through, like they plan, the users plan. So why I'm talking about these cases is because there are different things that happen. The people go through different processes, they have different needs, and in order to solve that needs, they basically explore a lot, and then they decide, and then a lot of other things happen. So there are different channels, different mediums, different touch points, that they go through. So in order to become a good designer, you'll have to understand all these touch points, and then create the products for the users, only after, like discussing with the users, talking to the users, and also understanding the business goals. Because at the end, business creates products to make money, and users use product to solve their problem or meet their need. So you need to understand these things. So if we'll see in each case what happened. So the user, like who's trying to use some product, or basically wants his needs met, here what happens is he becomes aware of the need first. That's the first thing, that's the trigger point. That is when he comes to know that, oh, I have a need. Let's say, for example, throwing a party. So the next month is my birthday, so I need to throw a party. So that's the trigger, right? So after that, what happens is he goes and does the secondary research. So basically explores online, tries to see what is the right place, right venue, in the case of this birthday example. So yes, he'll go and check different websites, talk to friends to figure out what is the right venue. And once he has decided that, or once he has made few selections, he goes and, like talk to these venue owners and so on, goes and talks to them, tries to figure out about whether it's available on that particular day or not, and what are the different options for meal menu and those kind of things. So that's the primary research. He himself goes and, like talks to them. So Along with that, and also in this process, compares the products, services, and then finally makes a decision and then makes the purchase. So basically makes the payment and then purchases the product. And that's how he's able to use the service. So here what I'm trying to explain is that yes, every user, whenever he is buying a product or basically using a service, he goes through an experience. So that's basically called as the customer journey. So whenever you're building any product, so try to understand the journey of the user. That's the most important thing. So if you fail in understanding the journey, you'll not be able to create the right product for them. So in order to create the right product, yes, you'll have to understand your target users and their specific needs, because different people have different needs. So you'll have to understand the different people, create a group basis the common pattern, and that's basically we call that group as persona. So we'll talk about that in the future sessions. But yes, in order to understand and create the right product, so we'll have to first create the customer journey. So this is the customer journey. So talk about the customer journey also in the coming slides. But before that, why some of the products, or why people like some of the products and why people don't like some of the products. So that means some of the product has good experience. Sometimes, I mean, like some of the other products has like neutral and some are bad. So what are the factors that affects these experiences? So the level of satisfaction depends upon, there are many factors, but primarily I've categorized into three. So one is whether the user like the product or the service. That's the first thing. So if the user like the product, then well, good. Chances of the experience being good would be more. Again, liking is something else, but understanding the product and then being able to use the service is a different ball game. So yeah, so if they are able to understand the product and also they like the product, then the chances of being the experience good is more. And the last is basically whether they are able to use the product or the service or not. So if they are able to like, or if they like the product, if they're able to understand the product, and also if they're able to use the product, so that means the users would derive or get good experience from the product. They would start liking your product. They would make sure that they use your product. So whenever you're building any product, from the product point, from the experience point, make sure that you're building a product that people would like and they should be able to understand. It should be simple to use. And finally, they should be able to use the product. They should be able to meet their needs. They should be able to solve their problem. So this is very important. So do understand that whenever you're building a product, they should like a product, they should be able to understand your product, and they should also be able to use your product. And it's very important to have good experience, because when the experience would be good, that means the people would continue using a product, and in return, what will happen? That will generate more revenue for the business. So business will grow, and so the business will keep investing money on the product and also will be able to deliver more to the users. So we talked about the customer journey. Now let's understand how that works and how we should understand the customer journey, and how we should look at the customer journey by dividing that into different stages. So what is customer journey? So the customer journey is also called as the buyer's journey, and it refers to the experiences that the people have before deciding to purchase a product or service and beyond. So basically it starts from the trigger point, and then the experience, or the journey that the user takes when he's basically exploring, using, purchasing, and then the post purchase. So everything, all the experiences that the user gets. So now let's start with the first thing. So what are the different stages here in this journey? So the first stage is called as the awareness stage. From the awareness, we go to the discover, and then there is something called that's called as interest. I'll explain about that, and then consideration. Then the user gets converted, and then different things happens like post purchase, and then he might after the purchase, the user might continue using the product or might buy additional products, and sometimes they basically never comes back to the company, or basically they don't buy any product. So there are different reasons for that. So now let's start with the first stage. So that's basically the awareness. So awareness is what? Awareness is a trigger point, right? Let's take the example of the iPhone. Let's say Apple launch this product, right? The Apple iPhone 13. So now Apple launched, so that could be the trigger point for me. So now I want to upgrade as a user, right? So that could be the trigger point. So becoming aware of the certain pain or need. So whenever the user gets aware that yes, he has a need, or he wants to solve some problem, or he wants to achieve buy something, so that's basically the trigger point. Okay, it could be the basic need, it could be the security need, it could be the aspirational needs, depending upon individuals. So now once the need is there, once the need is triggered, so the user moves to the next stage. That's basically the explore. So now let's say in this example, the user wants to buy this iPhone. So now what he'll do is like he'll go and start exploring the product. So he'll go online, again, as I discussed earlier, so go to different websites, start making comparison. Go to the Apple website, see the features of the product, what is new, and what are the different variants of the product, and basis that also check the price at what it is available on the Apple website, and additionally we'll go to the different websites to compare the price, right? So depending upon different factors, he will then finally make the comparison, right? So he'll compare like, okay, which one is providing me or providing him the product at a less price, or whether they are providing some additional or bundling the products, main product with something else, or giving some additional discounts, so on. So there are a lot of different factors, right? That the users use when comparing the product. And once the comparison is done, and once the user has evaluated and decided like he will buy the product from this particular store or maybe the online website, so then what he does is he basically converts. That's basically the purchasing happens. So he makes the payment, again different modes. So you need to understand what are the different modes available, or the users are ready to use when making the purchase. So purchase is done, and then the next stage is basically the retention. That's basically after the purchase. So if the user likes the product, he will keep using the services, and in future he might basically buy additional products also. So retention is what? It's basically staying loyal to the brand based on the positive experience. So it could be sales, post sales experience, or it could be like while using the product, if the user is able to derive value. So all those kind of things. And then at the end, it's about the repurchase. If your customer is happy, if your user is happy with your service, he will keep coming back to your company and will keep buying additional products from the company. So that's basically the repurchase. So they will keep buying the product and also will promote your product. They will talk good about your product. So this is the most important stage, because retaining the customer is very difficult. You can onboard a new customer, you can acquire a new customer, that's easy, but retaining is very difficult. So a lot of focus should be put in this stage. So this is the customer journey, and you need to have a good understanding of the customer journey before building any product, right? So we have understood that yes, when interacting or using any product, so as a user we get experiences, and also discuss that the experience could be good, bad, and neutral. So let's say we can take the example of this service and understand like how the service affects the experience. I always give this example. So this is the example of a restaurant. So when you visit a restaurant, the reason could be anything, right? So when you're visiting a restaurant, you sometimes you like the visit, sometimes you enjoy the experience eating there, and sometimes you don't like. And I've listed down some of the reasons, right, or the factors that affects the experience. It could be the why you went, whether you were dragged there, or forcefully taken there, or you went because of some occasion, like. So that could be one reason. The other could be like, what was the first experience as you walked into the restaurant. The other could be like the ambient, the lighting, the sound, the music, and the arrangement of the seats, table, and also what kind of menu, right? And also how much time did it take to prepare and serve, and also how was the customer experience, how easy was it to make the payment, and the interaction of the service guys, and so on. So there are a lot of different factors that affects the experience, right? So this is a very simple and easy example, easy to understand. There are a lot of different factors, and what happens is there could be like some factors which might affect or basically add to the negative, while the others could add to the positive side of the experience. Now the user, the whether he gets the positive or the negative experience depends upon the emotional highs and lows. If it's emotionally high, in the sense like the user has experienced some part as good in the service and some bad, so the combination of that will define the experience. So you need to understand throughout the journey of the user, right, whether he's liking the product, whether he's not liking the product, and at what stage he did not like the product. So you need to sum up all these experiences, and that basically makes up the overall experience of the product or the service. So yeah, so your answers to the above questions, your feelings, your experiences, all the emotional highs and lows encompasses the restaurant's user experience. So you see, so everything when combined together, that makes up the total experience of the user from the service. So that was one example. So there are other examples, many other examples. So this is specifically to the restaurant itself. So when we talk about the experience, there are a lot of different elements or entities involved in that experience. So first is always the user, and then is the product, then the presentation, and also the business and the usability. So these are like some of the factors. There are many more, but yes, these are the common factors that defines the experience. So user is one who is using the product, and the product is actual product. Okay, or this, it could be service also. In this case, if we take the example of this restaurant, it's the food. And if we talk about the business is the restaurant, who is basically uh, who owns that restaurant, right? And then visual design is the food and the presentation. How was that served? Whether it was easy, good taste, and eat, easy to chew, and so on. And usability is again about a nice presentation, so tasty, those kind of things. So these are few things, right? Few entities or elements that defines the experience. So you, whenever you're building the product, so should be aware of like all these entities, like what are the factors, what are the different uh, elements that would affect the experience, and then consider those when designing your experiences, right? So user experience is what is the combined experience, that's a complete satisfaction that the user gets. Now let's take the example of another example. Let's look at the another example. So this is like the online teaching that's happens right now. That's happening because of this COVID. So here, if you see the users, who are the users here? So there are two users. So again, depending upon who for whom you're creating the product. So there could be like one users, multiple users, different kind of users. So in this example, there are two users. One is the student and the other is the teacher. And the product is basically the computer and that's the hardware part. Okay, the physical product, and the other is the application that's being used inside the hardware. That's the desktop. Now, what are the designs? Design is basically the design of the product, the physical product, as well as the application. And in this case, the businesses are involved in this is what is basically the hardware and the software makers, and also the service providers, in the sense like who is basically who has made the application and who's using the application. There could be like different entities, different companies involved in serving the customer or offering the service, right? And usability is again about your physical design, digital design. So I'm using this example to explain that yes, whenever you're building any product, so you should always try and understand different entities, different people, different companies involved in providing the service to the users. So this will be a homework. I mean, if you are interested, you can think of few examples of product services that you recently bought, used, and the process you followed for buying the same. So what is the process? Like how did you go buying about the product? Did you consult your friends, your family, or other thing? Or did you visit any physical store before buying a product? It could be a refrigerator, it could be any appliances, it could be a book, or it could be anything else, right? So try to list down and think about or write down the process that you followed, and also list down what you liked and did not like, and mention what changes would you bring to improve the product and the services. While writing this down, if you find that yes, there are some issues in the process and so on, so how would you go about solving those things? So just do this homework if possible, right? I've talked about the experience. So now a small recap. I'll go back to the basics. So basically now understand user experience by understanding or reading the definition. So what is user experience? So user experience is the process of creating user interaction with devices or systems. So specifically when we talk about the digital experiences or digital products, so it's basically the users interacting with the digital products. Okay, so digital systems are the applications and apps that generally these users use. And if you really want to build something great, so you'll have to make sure that you're providing a positive experience, and the users should get engaged when using your product. And at the end, there should be something productive. They should be able to derive value by using your product. So user experience is what? User experience, again, I'll recap. So is the process of creating user interaction with devices or systems that provides an overall positive, engaging, and productive experience. We'll look at some other definitions too. So if simply put, user experience deals with people. So when we talk about people, we need to understand how people behave or what factors affects their behavior and decision making. So you should be aware of this. So having some understanding of human psychology will help you become a better designer. If you really want to grow in this field, you'll have to have some knowledge about the human psychology. And in this user experience process, we talk about people, we talk about the interaction, the digital interaction, and we also talk about the product. So what is the product? Okay, what is the problem it's solving? And overall, by using the product, what is the experience that the user will get? Okay, so the user gets the experience by interacting with the product. So that is what it is. So this is one of the simplest definitions. So user experience deals with people interacting with the product and the experience they received from that interaction. Okay, so in this case, if you'll see, there are different users. Like one is the cashier, the other is the someone who's making the payment, and the product is POS machine or the POS software, and also the payment and all those things. It's everything involved in that process. So that is user experience. Now also, what is UXD? You need to also know that. So UXD is the process of deliberately enticing a person to engage with a device or a system. So the process of designing the experience is called as the user experience design. So simple. That's what UXD means. And remember this. So basically, a great experience or great user experience are powered by customer and user centric thinking. You should always keep users in your mind when building a product, and this should not be, I mean, done only in few of the stages, but you should keep the users involved when building the product from the beginning till the end. So keep them involved, keep going back to them, take their feedback, take their inputs, and also talk about with them about different things about uh, what do they aspire for, what are the aspirations, what are the expectations, goals from the product, and so on. So keep talking to them, keep yourself engaged with them, so interact with them, take feedback from them. So the more you involve them, the better your product will be, right? Yeah, so I've already talked about this. So basically, so digital interaction is all about the user and the product, and everything that happens between the two. In UX, I mean, our focus is mostly on the digital products, and when we talk about the digital products, we talk about digital systems. That's the applications. Then talk about the usability, and usability is basically whether the user would be able to use the product or not, and there are different factors that defines or yeah, so defines that, or basically affects the usability. So we'll see if I'll be able to cover that. We'll try to cover in some sessions. And it involves interaction. So basically the user interacts with the product, and it also involves the visual design. That's the presentation layer where all the different information is presented in the terms of like visuals, that images, icons, text, and so on. And content also plays a very important role in the overall experience. So you should have some understanding of like what kind of content should go when designing a product, and there are other things also. So this is one good diagram to explain different fields of user experience. So there are different fields of experiences. So basically, you can either work as, let's say, the information architecture or researcher, or just as an interaction designer. Sometimes maybe like as just as a visual designer, even the branding as a branding expert also you can work. You can also work as a UX writer. So there are different fields. So depending upon your interest, you can get into any. And if you, let's say, if you want to just do interaction design, then you'll have to specialize in that. And then once you specialize in that, you will be called as the specialist or UX specialist. If you want to be someone like who wants to like take care of a lot of different things, maybe like research, visual design, and branding, you will be called as a generalist. So depending upon like what you want to do and what you're good at, so you can pick one of these, or you can learn many. Again, this is again a different representation, but in a different way. So there are a lot of different things that we do in the user experience. So basically, we try to understand the user goals, understand the business goals, and then create content, design, and interaction to create the product. And then a lot of different things are involved, like doing the business research, conducting design thinking workshops, and doing the comparative analysis, then creating the user flows, then creating personas, then creating sitemap, information architecture, creating prototype, then conducting interviews, doing the usability testing. A lot of different things are involved. So yeah, so you should be aware of each of these things. Like for example, let me pick subject matter expertise. So what is that? You should know that. What is design discovery? So you should know about what is that term. You should know about like what is feature prioritization, how to prioritize which feature should be developed first and which can be done later, right? Similarly, you should know about like requirements gathering, how to gather the requirements, be it from the stakeholders or from the end users. So you should have good understanding of all of these terms and its importance in the process. So since we are learning about the user experience, it's very important to know Don Norman. Okay, so Don Norman is the founding father of user experience, and he created this term user experience in 1993 when he was working for Apple. He's the one who coined this term, who came up with this term. So if you really want to learn more about user experience, you should, I mean, for 100% for sure, read this book, The Design of Everyday Things, because this will get you started in user experience and will help you understand and develop that mindset. So do read this book, okay? So this is the book, The Design of Everyday Things. This is one common question that I often get asked. So that's basically, where can we apply this UX? So you can apply this UX process in everything, not just the design, but in your personal life and a lot of other things also. For example, in the industrial design, you can apply this. You can also apply it in creating digital products. Yeah, we'll be doing that. And then also in building software, that's again digital. Then the physical product. So in order to make the experience good, you can use the process to create right products, considering a lot of different factors. So I'll not get into the physical product space, but again, you can use this process there in creating right packages, designs for packaging, and so on, and other industries. So that is what it is. So basically, today, I mean, like the UX has grown into an important design discipline that continues to grow and evolve. So that means like it is continuously growing now in the future, like the metaverse. They're also like, if you're someone who wants to get into that particular space, you'll have to learn and the UX and then provide right experience to the participants or the users there. So everywhere you can use this process, and yeah, because this helps you make usable products. Now we have understood the basics, but why should we care about this experience of the users? So user experience is pretty much everything that affects a user interaction with the product. We learned about that, we understood that. And UX, when we talk about UX, since it involves people, because it involves users, so we should know and build right experiences for these users or for these people, right? So we should know about their expectation, what they want, what is the problem that they are currently facing, and then try to help and solve that problem. So why this UX is important? Because at the end, you will be building products for the users. So you need to understand user. And when we talk about users, it's all about understanding their feelings, right? So that's why UX is about feelings. It goes beyond HCI and puts emphasis on the human side. Earlier, it used to be like more on the computers and the users, and it used to be about the human computer interaction. But nowadays, UX helps you go beyond that. It helps you understand the feelings of the users. So that's why like the empathy plays an important role in this. Similarly, since your product will be used by the people, again the same reason, so you'll have to understand the users and their needs and then build the product. And people, I mean, when they buy product or services, they come for some solution, or sometimes they have some aspirations. So all those things should be met, right? They should be able to achieve those things. So that's why people want questions to be answered and want to be treated with respect. So that's why make sure that whenever you're building any product, you give them the right experiences and provide them the right product. It depends on the context in which the product is used. This is one of the most important thing, and that's why the role of this personalization comes in place. So when you're building the product, understand your persona, understand your users, and then provide them the solution or the product. Okay, so for example, let's say you're building products for someone, let's say, who wants to get fit. So now people who wants to get fit, they would be having different needs. One who's like very fat and want to get in this shape, that's one need. The other one who's like already fit but wants to like maybe like build abs or something else, right? So his needs are different. So if you want to build the right product and be successful, then you will have to understand the context. And when I say context, you will have to understand the needs of different user groups. So that's why you can understand only by getting involved, or basically involving the users in your process. And this is a process which means it's practically scientific. So people have used this, have been able to create great products by using this process. So it's important. I mean, like we can follow that. We can use this process to build right product. And people have big expectations. So when they buy a product or when they use the service, they come with an expectation. And you as a designer should make sure that their expectations are met. So earlier it used to be only like one or two channels, like mobile and website, desktop, right? But nowadays we see that yes, these are not the only two channels, there are other channels also. So the cross channel experience should be there. So for example, let's say example of Netflix, so you can watch that on TV, you can watch that on your laptop, you can watch movies on even mobile and so on, right? So the experience should be cross channel. So for example, let's say I was watching a movie on TV, so I should be able to continue from wherever I stopped on other channels also. You need to understand what are those channels and then consider those or keep those in mind when building the product. Similarly, if you provide or if you are able to create great experiences, that will help you build brand value. And that is what is going to help you in the longer run from the business side. So UX strengthens brand messaging, drives engagement, and creates brand loyalty. When the users are loyal, they will continue using the product, and in return, or what will happen is the company will keep making money. So as a return, what will happen? You will generate more leads and more revenue. And at the end, it's all about the experience. So good products makes people happy, so they're able to enjoy the product. So make sure that whenever you're building products, so you make something that people can enjoy using. So there are other things also that is important to understand, and that is basically the factors that affects the UX. So to understand, remember this user experience honeycomb by Peter, and so this helps you understand like what are the different factors that you should keep in mind when building the product. So that will help the users derive more value from the product. So let's understand this. These are like different factors. So one is useful. So yeah, products needs to be simple and easy to use. When you're building, don't make complex products. Keep it very simple. Create a minimal experience. Usable, people must fulfill a need. So they come with a purpose. Those purpose should be, like your product should be able to help them achieve those needs. Desirable, that should be good looking, otherwise like nobody would use your product. So yeah, when you're building the product, it should have the right appearance, right shape, the design element should be good, the interaction should be good. So desirable means image, identity, brand, and other design elements should evoke emotion and appreciation. So at the end, it's all about how the product looks. And findable is basically if the user has a problem with the product, they should be able to quickly find a solution. So yeah, so that is what it is. And then accessible is all about the accessibility. People should be able to access all the features of the product or use the product. And credible is basically they should be able to believe the company, they should be able to have belief on the product and the company. So these are some factors, try keeping this in mind. And few more slides and then we'll be done. So we understood or we learned about like what are the different factors that affects the experience. So now also understand what are the different factors which makes bad experiences. So yeah, so badly designed products make the user feel that the product is complicated and difficult to operate. So make sure that whenever you're designing any product, your product is not complicated, it's not complex, and it's easy to use. Okay, otherwise they will get frustrated and they will talk bad about your product, and you will end up losing your customers as well as other potential users. So now make sure there is not too much of cognitive load. The experience should not be stressful. So these are very common things. It's very generic what I'm talking about, but we often forget about these when designing products. So yeah, make sure that you're not providing a lot of cognitive load to the users, and make sure it's not ugly looking. Create good looking designs and the experiences. Make sure it's not confusing, it's straight to the point, it's not distracting. Make sure only the important information elements are present on the screen. Don't have unwanted information. That is basically try and follow minimalistic design. It should be efficient. Don't make inefficient designs. And also make sure all the journeys are easy. Okay, so that is basically don't make any journey, any flow tedious, and remove complexity. So just by removing the complexity, you'll be able to reduce the cognitive load, and there will be less distraction in the design, in the experience, and because of that, your product and the experience will become efficient. Right. So yeah, so I think like I'll stop here today.